All right. Back here with Javier Reyes of Locked On Padres. But first, let me tell the audience real quick. Don't forget to catch every D-backs and Padres pitch on their hometown broadcast when you download the Sirius XM app and either search up Diamondbacks or Padres on the app. Now we're officially back with Javier Reyes of Locked On Padres. And now it's time to do a little draft, Javi, because we are like damn near basically there at the halfway point of the MLB season. And it's so easy to talk about the positives, the teams that have been doing so good, the players that have been killing it and looking like all-stars. You know, I could talk about Corbin Carroll for days, but it's always more fun to get a little cynical, a little negative, and I always have more fun talking about the downside and talking about the biggest disappointment. So right now, for the next couple of segments, we're going to be drafting our most disappointing players from the first half of the MLB season. And how do you feel about a little coin toss, asking Siri on who should go first? Should we do that?
I love it, man. That's what you got to do. Right. Come on.
Let me see. Or you know what? I thought I actually had a coin. Okay, let me just ask Siri. Hey, Siri, flip a coin. Hold on, audience.
Tails.
Oh, wait. We didn't pick heads or tails, You want heads or tails?
Tails never fails, man. Let's do it.
Hey, Siri, flip a coin. It's heads this time. Look at Siri coming through for the boy. If we did the first time, you would have got it, but we totally just forgot on how to flip a coin there. So, audience, Millard will be going first. I will be drafting number 1 overall, and we're not, I mean, unless you want to. I feel like in 2-person draft, you really don't have to do a snake draft, and unless you really want the turn and you want to draft back-to-back, then we could do a snake draft. But I feel like a normal fixed draft with 2 people just going back and forth is probably.
I think that's better. Yeah, I think that's fine with 2 people. Yeah,
the easiest thing to do. So I am curious to see who you're going to draft number 2. Number 1, I don't know if it's controversial. We'll see. But my number 1 overall pick for most disappointing player in the first half, he might not even be having the worst season of the guys we're going to be mentioning today. But considering 2 teams in the offseason tried to sign this man to like a $300 million contract, but knee issues were the reasons those physicals failed. He went back to Minnesota to only have a pretty disappointing season, not even going to make the All-Star team unless he makes it as a Twins representative. I'm talking about Carlos Correa. When you look at his numbers right now, my goodness, thankfully, I mean, we know the Mets are having a down season, but imagine if they gave all that money to Carlos Correa and they still have this season because Correa is batting 213. Yeah, that narrative right there. Correa had that slash line with what the Mets are doing this year. It would be bad. Now, if the Giants were still performing well with Correa, struggling, that would be a different story. But I think a Mets team was struggling Correa would have been the funniest narrative possible. Unfortunately, we didn't get it, but I'm taking him number 1 as the most disappointing player for the 2023 first half.
It's a good pick. 92 WRC plus. Yeah. He's only hitting 200. He got hot for a little bit the last couple weeks, so maybe he's slowly turning it around. But I think that's a great first overall pick because also considering just like all the chaos of him being like one of the top guys, right? Like on the market. And again, like he heated up for like a week or 2, but for the most part, it's been pretty constant. So it's making everyone wonder about the injury. Maybe everyone was right to have passed on him. I mean, the Giants were giving him like $350 million or whatever, and they took it back. So I totally understand.
Yeah, he could be the biggest what if from this past offseason because if we get a few more seasons where he looks like this, like it's only the first year of that new deal. It's only the first half. But if it's like a couple years of where he just doesn't look the same, the Mets and the Giants fan bases are going to be pretty happy that they dodged a bullet there. Javi, who's going number 2 overall in this draft?
See, I'm going to take a better pick. Because unlike you, I actually I plan to win. I plan to win the disappointment. That's where we're at. You know what I mean?
All right.
Because while I do agree with all your reasons at Correa, especially given the like theater of it all of his signing has been disappointing. But I also have to say, we kind of had those injury things. So, you know, part of me is like, should maybe we have seen this coming?
Okay.
I'm the Padres guy. I got to do it. We love him so much here. And he's got the swagger. Don't listen to the idiots who say he doesn't hustle. My first pick is Manny Machado.
Man.
And there's a couple reasons for this. Number 1, last year he should have won the MVP, in my opinion. I've been on the record about this. I don't care that your former boy, Goldie, had a higher OPS plus. I don't care about his WOBA. What I care about is heading into last season, Manny Machado knew I have to be the one because we didn't have Tatis and we had a weaker lineup, and he came through. And I think that means something, and it's a little bit weird for you to win MVP when your teammate was the third runner-up. That's just a little bit weird for me optically. I'm done with my soapbox. He follows up last year, and this year so far, he has been pretty bad. For one, he's also part of the runners in scoring position thing, 206 average with runners on. And he just signed a gigantic extension right before the season. And instead, right now, I mean, again, last year, 7.4 F4. He's got a 1 right now. Last year at a 152 WRC plus. Right now it's 94. Swinging at a bunch of things, and I don't think it's only luck-based. I think there's been some other players that have been disappointing this year, particularly on the Mets, that have been a little bit just off year. You know, you're getting a little bit unlucky. With Manny, it's just, especially after the extension, especially after such a great year last year, especially with all the A's, maybe extend Soto next, all that stuff. He's my number one pick. I just think that it cannot be emphasized enough. He's gotten a little bit of a pass amongst Padres fans, which understandable because he's so cool and he's been so great for the team overall. But I mean, first year after the extension, and this isn't even a new team, you know? You know how some guys, Xander Bogaerts, I imagine, is going to get drafted in this. It's a new team, and we've seen this happen before. We saw it happen with Marcus Semien and Corey Seager last year.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they signed with new teams, and now they're awesome this year. So Xander, that might be why he falls a little bit in this disappointment draft. Machado, you're just extending. You've been here already, and you're just not performing. Defense is still good, but he's swinging at way too many pitches as well. Just not good stuff. So he's my first pick, man.
Yeah.
For all those reasons I outlined.
Machado was high on my list. I think I had him like maybe number 4. And you got to, take into account expectations for his team, expectations for Machado. Yeah. The fact that he kind of was making a little noise this past offseason with that contract extension.
Exactly. I mean, look, after the first month of the season, there was only 30 players with a negative F4. One of those 30, and I know he's gotten a little bit better since, one of those 30 was Manny Machado. So not just bad, but pretty deplorable, pretty abominable. For most of the season. So that's things. He's been heating up lately, hitting around 300, 350 on base percentage lately. He's been heating up, but even still, he's got to be up there. He's got to be.
And he's so good. I feel like he'll probably still have pretty good numbers by the end of the season. At least
he's still 30. That's another thing. Yeah, he's 30.
He's been
quietly young in his own way because he's been up since he was 12 years old.
Yeah, that's
part of it. So
he's been in baseball for like a decade and a half. Yeah, he's just turned 30. It's insane.
When he was 19 is when he debuted in Major League Baseball. So that's what happens.
But that was a cute pick, Javi. That was a cute pick. But you're talking about winning the draft. Here's the real. This guy, he's not the sexiest name. But if you're actually talking about disappointment, especially coming off the season he had last year where he didn't win the Cy Young, but I definitely thought he should have been deserved in the conversation. And now he's not even in Major League Baseball anymore. He just got sent down to the minors and was crushed by the Florida
rookie ball. Rookie ball.
Yeah, rookie ball lit him up for 11 runs in 3 innings. I'm taking Alek Manoah, my second overall pick, third overall pick in this draft. Alek Manoah, I thought had a legitimate shot to win this Cy Young last year. Of course, he didn't, but I thought he should at least been in the conversation, been a finalist. He was an absolute stud. And so far, I mean, he's already missed a couple turns in the rotation, still leads the American League in walks allowed, went down to 6.36 ERA. And his walks have been an issue. He's not striking out people as much. He's given up a ton of hits. He has almost a 2 whip on the season. I don't know what happened to Manoah. I feel like he's been body snatched out of Major League Baseball, but this is someone I thought was one of the rising stars among pitchers. I thought he was going to be a huge catalyst to that Toronto Blue Jays team. They added a Chris Bassett with the Gosman from last season, and you got Barrios, who's had a bounce back. If Manoah was good this year, you would have had 4 number 1 starters, 4 number 1 and number 2 starters in that Blue Jays rotation. And Manoah had just been such a big disappointment. I've drafted him on a bunch of fantasy teams, and he just not come through for me this season. He's been dropped by all those fantasy teams as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, we're not kidding. Rookie ball start, gave up 11 runs. I will be a little bit, I can't get too into details. I have heard there's some off field, he's just struggling with some things. So it might just be mental. Sources? One, mentally just being a little bit. One, just mentally, just in terms of his confidence, but also some off field, personal stuff might be contributing to it. But even still, forget that. it's still insane. We haven't seen something like this. I talked with our boy, Paul Francis Sullivan, but I remember to call him Sully on my podcast yesterday. And he talked about is there a precedent for this? Some people might bring up Brandon Webb from back in the day, but that guy's arm blew out. Tim Lincecum, injury related. There's injury. Johan Santana of the New York Mets, injury related. Or maybe some people might say like some other guys who overperformed, but they were overperforming like drastically, right? Even still, if you ask and look up your pitcher list article, some people said Manoah might regress this year. No one said he was going to go from walking 2 batters per 9 innings to 6 and be getting crushed in rookie ball. So I think it's a great pick. I really do, because even though some naysayers might say he was going to calm down a little bit this year, not to this point. Not to the point where ERA skyrockets to 6.6, right? And it's not luck-based. It is just really rough for a very good team in the Blue Jays too. So, yeah, it's a great pick, man.
Yeah. And the guys you just mentioned, you could have, like you said, blamed injury, or all of them were like turning 30. Like they've been in baseball for like more than a half decade. Like all those guys at least had a little bit mileage on their arm. Manoah's in his 3rd season. In 2021, as a rookie, he had 20 starts, a 3.22 ERA. Then in 2022, a full year starter, almost 200 innings pitched, an all-star, finished 3rd in Cy Young voting. And then this season, you think he's going to take another step forward, maybe even think he regresses to the mean a little bit, but you don't think he's going to be out of Major League Baseball after the first 2 years he had. So very disappointment. Great pick by me. Javi, can you respond, though, with number 4?
Yeah, of course I can respond. But I have to admit, there's a couple different directions I can go here. But for me, I'm going to be a little bit of a hater and say AJ Preller was right, ladies and gentlemen. When he made this trade all those years ago, he knew we're going to get CJ Abrams anyway. Our farm is going to replenish. So why do you need this guy? Bring in Will Myers, the ultimate good vibe player for the Padres, as Padres fans know, even if not always the best. I pick a Trey Turner.
Okay, I was confused for a second. I was like, where is this going?
Like, AJ Preller was right to trade this man away. I'm of course kidding, but I'm not kidding about Trey Turner. He's been not good. I made this joke a lot. He's literally just Isaiah Kiner-Falefa of the Yankees. I'm not like even making that up. Their slash lines are similar. Signed a big contract. And if you want to bring in some extra stuff, some other kind of things, is on top of the contract, on top of the fact that he's been a really good player for a while. Shout out to some former people who might be listening to us who debated me on him versus Tatis a while ago. He was a hero in the World Baseball Classic. You know what I mean? All the Philly fans are like, wow, we get this guy for like 10 years. And he comes in and is just massively disappointing. It's not entirely luck-based. You know what I mean? The BABIP, I'm pretty sure, is pretty high. He's not hitting for the same level of power. He's basically only had, from what I've seen, like 1 game this year where he hit like 2 home runs in a game. And I think he was part of that comeback against the Mets from over the weekend. But other than that, I mean, truly, like, just this bad. And granted, it's his first year. Things can still get a little bit better for sure. But it's just massive disappointment. And it was supposed to be kind of a move that put Philly, I'm not going to say over the top, but help them get back to where they were last year, which is the World Series. And he's not been that. 86 WRC plus, man. Slugging 387. It's just, wow. That's it. Wow.
Yeah. And it's so weird because this is like one of the most consistent offensive players we have in Major League Baseball. This is a guy with 297 career average. And like the last couple of years, he's also turned into like this power home run hitter that could also steal bases. So it's like the fact that he can't hit anymore has just been so weird. And it's like you said, it's a new player on a new team the first season. So I do think he'll be okay moving forward. Like I did predict a huge Marcus Semien, Corey Seager bounce back this year. That looks like it's come to fruition. Lindor's second season with the Mets Lindor's second season with the Mets has been a lot better. Third season a little shaky, but yeah, I think a lot of times we see that first season, new place, new team. It could be a big struggle, especially for like infielders. It feels like it, like these up the middle guys. I don't know. Maybe we got to build team chemistry or other partners on the infield defensively. So maybe there's just a lot to think about when you go to a new team. But Trey Turner, number 4, can't be mad at all with that pick. And I mean, he's 30. He's going to get paid until he's like 40 by the Philadelphia Phillies. So I know Phillies fans are probably feeling a little nervous, but like we just talked about, new players in new places. Like look at Nick Castellanos this season. Last year, he looked like a terrible. terrible. This year, he's putting up all-star numbers once again. So let's hold out hope that Trey Turner could get back into it. But now it's time for me to make a selection at number 5. And man, I thought this guy wasn't going to be on the board any longer, but he's still there. Javi just keeping them on a silver platter for me. I mean, honestly, there's a whole bunch of guys who could take, but I'm going with my 3rd overall pick. I can't believe he's still on the board, but I'm going with an actual reigning Cy Young Award winner. You might be thinking it's one guy. Mm-hmm. I know you're shaking your head like, yeah. No, it's the other Cy Young Award winner from the National League, because this is someone that's on a good team. That's a team that's, I think, like 10 games above 500 at the time.
Oh, yeah. I know who you mean. Okay. I was right.
Okay. You're right. Okay. Never mind. The team, if he was performing well, I think we'd be looking at them as a true World Series contender with how the rest of that rotation has performed. Mm-hmm. Guys like Luis Arraez have come in and batted 400 for nearly half a season. But
he's awesome.
he's awesome. But the ceiling of the team just doesn't feel as strong with Sandy Alcantara. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that last name, but Sandy, I drafted him in fantasy as well. He's been a huge disappointment after literally running away with the Cy Young Award last year. Like, it was not close between him and the rest of the field. Like, by the All-Star break, we were like, if Sandy Alcantara, if he just stays healthy in the second half, he's going to win the Cy Young. And that's what happened. And then you come into this season, the Marlins offense has been a little bit better. Guys like Braxton Garrett, Jesus Luzardo, you even got the Yuri Perez's. Like, you're getting great contributions from the youngsters in your rotation. You just need that 1A leader, that superstar at the top that could guide you through the postseason. Sandy has not been that guy this year, and I'm getting him at number 3 overall for my team. Oh my God, a steal.
Here's why he isn't there for me, but it's close. I was debating between him and another pitcher who I'm about to take in a second.
Okay, that's fair.
With Alcantara, in fairness, it's been bad. Like 5 ERA on the season right now. I'm pretty sure he is finally doing well. Like tonight, I think when I was looking at against the Red Sox, he's having a good start. I will say he's this type of pitcher that it's just not, I wasn't going to be that surprised if he regressed, because a lot of what made him really great is volume. It's not like he's an elite strikeout guy. He was a great control guy. He's still an excellent pitcher, top 5 still. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel like a little bit of a fallback. Granted, it's been a giant one, which I still think why he's a worthy pick here, but just because it's so volume based for him that he was doing so many complete games. And I'm not totally surprised that maybe the next year he'd fall off a little bit, maybe some fatigue setting in or anything like that. But even still, I mean, 5 ERA is pretty nuts for a follow-up season from Cy Young winner.
Yeah, I mean, 6 complete games last year on a shutout for Sandy Alcantara. I still don't know how to pronounce that last name, but yeah, I think if he was good this year, we'd be talking about the Marlins in a different light, and I think he's a big reason why we don't truly see them as a World Series contender and just more of a frisky playoff team once we get there. But Javi, who's the pitcher you think you're going to draft right now?
I'm going to take Corbin Burns of the Milwaukee Brewers. Little bit of a weird pick, might surprise you. He hasn't been dreadful. He hasn't been as bad as Sandy has been, but he's also someone who won a Cy Young not too long ago. And he's like a super strikeout guy. And it's not as predicated on volume for him, which is why I think it's a little bit more disappointing for him. His strikeout rate, 22% this year. It's just not as great. He's not getting as many chases. He just hasn't been as dominant. His strikeout rate, like I said, is down. There's not much to say to it on that front. Down from, I'm going to try and pull up real quick if I can pull up his strikeout rate, because Fangraphs refuses to load for me right now. I don't know if that ever happens to you, but he's just been not as good. And for a team that's also in first place, they really could use something out of him. But my biggest other reason is it's really disappointing following the Brewers, who I've been mocking for like 2 years now, because they do not get nearly enough crap for being essentially the A's / the Clevelands or whatever of the National League. After all that stuff with the contract, like, I really wanted him to go out and shove and make these people look stupid for not paying him, or at the very minimum, not just giving him an extra $500,000. And they went to arbitration over that. And instead, he's been pretty poor. So that really disappoints me, considering how good he's been these past couple of years. Won a Cy Young already. Corbin Burns is my pick. It genuinely surprised me. I thought he was going to be a lot better.
Yeah, and I wonder if it just like he needs a change of scenery. I don't know how happy he is in Milwaukee with the fact that he's been talking like, You know what? I wouldn't be too upset if I got traded in the season. He doesn't want to talk contract.
After what they did, yeah, I would want to get out of there too.
Yeah, and it seems like the Brewers, with the moves that they made last year with the Josh Hader, it feels like the Brewers are like fine staying in purgatory and would rather unload these players as we get closer to the deadline. So I'm curious to see what kind of, cause it's like kind of a fork in the road moment for this franchise as to whether they kind of want to keep retooling around the current core that they have, or if they think it's time to start selling off some of these pieces and really start a full rebuild down in Milwaukee. So I'm not too sure what they're going to do. Corbin Burns probably a little too high for me when I look at some of the names, because I think we're about to start a run on pitchers in this draft, Javi, but that was already number 6 on this list. So let's save the rest of the draft after these short messages. And we're back here on the Locked On Diamondbacks crossover. Javier Reyes of Locked On Padres. And don't forget, you could catch every D-backs pitch and Padres pitch on their hometown broadcast when you download the Sirius XM app and either search up Diamondbacks or Padres. Now, so far, we got Correa, number 1 by me. Machado, number 2 to Javi. Manoah, number 3 to me. Trey Turner, number 4 to Javi. Sandy Alcantara, number 5 to me. Then Corbin Burns, number 6, back to Javi. Number 7, Millard back on the clock. And who's he going to select? Still a bunch of good names here. I think I'm going to take the second San Diego Padre off the board, and I'm going to go into the pitching staff on this one, because this is another guy who got a little bit of a contract extension from this past season. I'm not going to lie. I'm not watching this guy every 5th day, but when I just look at that slash line that he has right now, 4.84 ERA at the time of us recording this, got as we said earlier in the podcast, got scratched from his start today due to an illness. What could it mean? Could he be a part of the locker room problem down there in San Diego? That's probably too far for him, but I'm taking Yu Darvish, who, listen, I love Yu Darvish. He's been a stud, but is it surprising to see him struggle a little bit at age 36? A guy who has a lot of wear and tear, guy who's been a workhorse throughout the majority of his career. Probably not. I think I would be fine with the slash line he's putting up, and I would be able to accept a regression if the Padres didn't just give him a boatload of money before this current season. So because of that, if there's no contract extension, maybe he doesn't make the draft. Maybe he's an honorable mention, but because he got some new money and this is the first year of the deal and this is how he's looking, Darvish, you're going number 7 overall to the Locked On Diamondback squad.
Totally fair. Totally fair. It's tough having multiple Padres being drafted. The only reason I didn't take him is because, in fairness, he is old. And when a player is older, not quite as shocking, I think, for a lot of people. He's old. And it looked like for a little bit that his stats were just a little bit inflated by a couple tough starts. That Mexico City series that was famous, like maybe that was it. But no, I mean, he's really struggled. And him being out with an illness for, at the time of when we're recording this, Tuesday start, maybe that's a sign that there might be some injury things. 2 years ago in 2021, he did have lingering injury issues, and that's why his second half was pretty poor. And then last year he was fully healthy and was great. So it could be an injury-related thing, but regardless, especially when you bring up the extension, just massively disappointment for the Padres. It's not even their biggest problem, which is crazy, because Snell is making up for it, Musgrove, Waka, Lugo, but that's why. The age and then the fact that it hasn't hurt the team as much as some other things is why I didn't take him. But still, it's okay to be wrong, Millard. It's okay.
Oh, well, if Darvish was having a great year, maybe we wouldn't talk about the Padres offense, right? Maybe we'd be like, oh, they're pitching their way through all these offensive struggles. Maybe they would be in the playoff picture. But because your number 1 guy sucks, maybe this is why you're at. Okay. So who do you have up next? Who's the great number 8 pick that you got for us, Javi?
It's a little bit of you're a baseball fan if you know this stuff a little bit.
Okay.
But I do think that this is worth pointing out.
This is not for the
arguably the worst team in baseball, not the Oakland A's, but the Kansas City Royals.
Oh.
Again, I know this is a little bit of a weird one, but I'm going with Bobby Witt Jr. here. Getting a little spicy. I know. Getting a little spicy. Rookie season, classic like rookie wall. You know what I mean? Like it comes in there and then he's okay. 99 WRC plus, but makes a lot of mistakes on defense. He does get the counting stats, 20 home runs, 30 stolen bases. So shout out to the fantasy baseball players everywhere. Same thing this year, 12 home runs, 23 stolen bases, but hasn't improved his walk rate enough. Not making enough contact. His weighted on base isn't good. 92 WRC plus. The defense has gotten a little bit better, but I just think that for the top overall prospect, basically, heading into last season, for you to not have shown any signs of improvement is disappointing, especially considering there's not all that much else to be excited about for the Royals. You knew you weren't going to be contending. All you had to look forward to was, all right, let's see how much better Bobby Witt can be. So that's my pick there. A little bit of a reach, I know, but I wanted to have him anyway because I think there was a lot of hype for him, and for a team that this was like the basic thing that they were hoping for. If you ask every Royals fan, they're like, yeah, I'm hoping Bobby Witt takes a leap, and he still might, still extraordinarily young. I'm not saying he's a bust. I think that's patently absurd when people say I'm still 23 years old, but that's just me. What do you think, sir?
Definitely a little bit of a reach. I'm not totally upset about it. We did take a look. We did deliberate at the Locked On Diamondbacks team squad of who are drafting on our team. We did deliberate Bobby Witt. But like you said, I mean, the only reason I didn't draft him is because of those counting stats, because the slash line is bad. Most of what he does is pretty average, but he still might have 25 home runs and 50 stolen bases at the end of the season. So I'm like, he's at least productive. He still might not be the greatest player. He's still probably not the guy that we expected when he was called up, but he's at least productive in some areas, and I don't think he's a negative out there on the field. It's the same reason why I don't want to spoil any picks, but I'm not going to be drafting Julio Rodriguez with my last pick, just because even though he's having a disappointing season, he still is going to have like a 30-40 type of season, 30 home runs, 40 stolen bases potentially. So that's why I'm like, he's still not as good as maybe what we thought.
Counting stats, yeah.
But counting stats, you're still productive in some areas. So that's why I'm like, you're not a total disappointment.
Still good defense from Julio. He's still got a 2.3 F4. Like, he's still been good there. Been heating up a little bit lately. Like, and also another thing with Julio is he was really bad in the second half last year. So maybe it should have been expected that, all right, he was playing a little bit above his head. He's still got a lot to learn. But yeah, I was tempted about Julio, but for me, it's Bobby Witt.
Now, for my last pick, I could either go with my heart or I could go in my head. It's always more fun to go with your heart and just put logic to the side. So with the ninth overall pick in this draft and my final pick of the draft, I'm taking former D-backs fan favorite Dalton Varsho, traded over to the Blue Jays. We got two Blue Jays on the list. He's got
fleeced them.
Yeah, we fleeced them, guys. He's still got some counting stats. He still plays great defense, but always the first half struggles with Dalton Varsho. He's batting like 220. He's got that below 700 OPS. He's going to get some bombs. He's going to get some steals, but he just hasn't progressed to the level that we expected. He's still one of the best defensive outfielders in baseball. But when you consider the D-backs got Lourdes Gurriel, who might be going to an all-star game this year, and Gabriel Moreno, who looks locked in as the D-backs catcher of the future. Yeah, big time fleece by the D-backs. That trade might have turned this whole season around. It might be the biggest reason why the D-backs are currently in the playoff picture. So Dalton Varsho, you are not escaping this draft. You get to come back to the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast and join our team.
It's a solid pick. You got to get some homerism in there. I was wondering when it was going to happen because you don't have anyone on your team. That's been disappointing, really. So I was like, all right, how is he going to find his way here? He can't go Madison Bumgarner because he's always been bad. All right, he can't do this. He can't. So I was JD Martinez. You might have been able to go if he was bad with the Dodgers, right? But I love the pick. I appreciate the homerism.
Yeah, that's a good.
I'm going to get wild for my last one.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to do something ridiculous. I'm going to do something that is so stupid that it will be talked about on our crossovers for years to come.
So you're not trying to win this anymore. You're conceding.
I'm taking Brian Reynolds for my last pick. Okay. You know why? Because I'm disappointed that he wasn't bad. And you know why? Because this man, and I've written about this for Just Baseball. Everyone could go look it up. This man was in trade rumors for like 4 years, as long as I've known you. And I was gonna cry of laughter if he gets that extension and comes in as even that good. The same thing as last year. So this is disappointing for me that he wasn't bad. I am disappointed personally because it would have been so funny following all the rumors and people. They said they wanted a Soto package for this man. You know what I mean? Like, come on. And he's a good player. 24th in F4 among outfielders, not the craziest in the world. He's a solid player, hits for power on a Pirates squad. That's, get a young team that's getting a little bit better. But I just think it would have been so funny if he was bad after all of this chat, because I have like a personal vendetta against this man. And so I'm hurt. I wanted Brian Reynolds to not be that great because I think it would have been funny. That makes me a poor sport. I 100% agree. You shouldn't root for players to be bad, but I don't care. I'm going rogue. This is what happens when I watch the Padres too long. Your brain begins to atrophy. This is how you think about things. So there we are.
Man, hopefully Ethan Smith of Locked On Pirates put on earmuffs for that. I'm sorry, Ethan, that Brian Reynolds had to be taken in this draft, but Javi, thank you for conceding the last pick and basically declaring me the winner on this draft. I mean, it's not even close. If I have to do a quick recap for the listeners, this is who's on Millard's team as the most disappointing players from the first half. Carlos Correa, who was signed to $800 million this past offseason, if you count up all the contracts he signed. Alek Manoah, who was a finalist for Cy Young last year, quite literally getting crushed in rookie ball. Then I took the reigning Cy Young Award winner, who's not even the best starter in his rotation anymore, took Yu Darvish, and then I wrapped it up with Dalton Varsho, who was acquired for 2 All-Stars, basically. So, yeah. And then on Javi's team, he's got Manny Machado, superstar, Trey Turner, superstar, Corbin Burns, superstar, Bobby Witt Jr., young superstar, and then Brian Reynolds, who's actually having an All-Star season. So I'm not even sure if you
if we did like a graphic on Twitter, it would be so confusing for people to be like, wait, oh, it's disappointing for him, but for nobody else. Brian Reynolds.
This personal disappointment. And let me just run through some quick honorable mentions. I don't know if you have any, Javi, but
I got some.
Okay, good. For my last one, when I was debating that number 9 between Dalton Varsho, the other guy I was debating was Pablo Lopez because he's got like mid-4th year, right? And when you consider the guy that you gave up for Pablo Lopez is batting .400 through the first half of the season, I feel like that counts. I had Justin Verlander written down, but he's been kind of hurt, so I don't feel like that's spiritually correct. Same with Jacob deGrom. Like, I don't want to put those guys on. Jose Abreu was pretty close to getting drafted because that
was mine. Yeah,
that was yours. Okay, and then I also had like
mine.
Sorry, if I stole your thunder there, Javi.
No, it's fine. It was what I was considering for my last pick. Was Jose Abreu, but I wanted to be fun and stupid.
Yeah, I mean, Jose Abreu might have won you the draft, but yeah, Brian Reynolds definitely lost it for you. Then I also had like Tim Anderson down, Nestor Cortez. Yeah. I had your Puerto Rican poppy Francisco Lindor down, and also
not disappointing enough. He's been good. I would have defended him if he did that.
I don't know about that. And then how about
Byron? He's getting better.
How about Byron Buxton? I had him down too, just because he's finally healthy and he's like not having Buxton this season. It's like the only time he's healthy. It's like, why are you not looking like the superstar we always see when you're on the injured list? It's insane. That might be a personal disappointment one. I don't know.
I mean, I get it. Francisco Lindor, my thing is the defense is still excellent. He actually made a crazy play while we were recording this in the Mets game against the Brewers, like a Jeter-esque kind of turnaround throw. His WRC plus is positive. BABIP is super low at 240, which suggests that he's been getting unlucky because he's a good base runner. That's why I was going to pick him. So yeah, I came prepared if you picked my boy. Trust me, I was ready. Jose Abreu, great pick because he's just been terrible and everyone was like, oh my God, rich get richer with him.
Yeah.
You know which one that I didn't even put him down. I only realized it now. My last honorable mentions that I wrote down before this, Aaron Nola of the Philadelphia Phillies.
That's a good one.
Free agent, all that thing. The only reason I didn't pick him is because while he has been bad, this is kind of his thing. He's the Eric Hosmer of pitchers. Okay. What I mean by that is if you look at his years, his ERA by year, it's bad, good every single year for Aaron Nola. So part of me is like, maybe we should have just seen this coming. Right. He's got a 4.3 ERA as we speak. But like if you go to 2017, 3.54, year after that, 2.3, 3.87, 3.28, 4.63, 3.25, 4.38. So just really inconsistent. Chris Bryant was an honorable mention for me. But old and it's Rockies. So it's hard for me to think anything on that team is a disappointment. Vlad Jr., if I was feeling like a jerk, I was going to pick him and just be like, oh, I thought he was the MVP guy. Vlad Jr. He was the 5th overall pick in fantasy. That was one. Dylan Carlson or Tyler O'Neill. If I was feeling like more like a jerk because reportedly they didn't want to give up those guys for Soto. And it's like, whoa, I'm disappointed if you couldn't give up Dylan Carlson for Soto. I mean, we're he must be amazing. The last one I even have on my list. I'm going to be honest. Dylan Cease of the Chicago White Sox. Totally, very quietly. I think everyone is just like, yeah, no crap. Like everybody on the White Sox is bad, but he was like a Cy Young contender. It was like one of the best strikeout pitchers in the league last year. So for him to be where he's at right now is like pretty surprising in a lot of ways. And I imagine some nerd out there will be like, oh, I saw this coming. But I mean, he was a good player. So yes, White Sox totally expected, but not from Dylan Cease whatsoever for sure.
And if you want to, because he's batting 250 on the season, you could have put Mike Trout on the list too. I don't know if you.
You are such a menace.
I was
Nobody listened to him. This is just a bit that you're doing.
No one even saw. I covered my mouth. I'm Mike Trout. I just did it real quick. No one even saw that. That's just giggles, guys. You guys know I like to do that for just giggles, just for the giggles.
He's your Brian Reynolds.
I'm personal disappointments in the fans for batting a man with 250 average for the All-Star game. But that's neither here or there. That's just a joke. We want to see the Angels in the postseason with Ohtani and Mike Trout. That's what we all want to see at the end of the day. Javi, we've been recording for nearly an hour at this point. Where can the listeners find you online?
They can find me online at Javipeno, Javiiipeno, or at LO_Padres if you want only the Padres tweets, because sometimes I talk about some other stuff on my main account. And then Locked On Padres on YouTube to see my hat and to see us both lose it when I took Brian Reynolds in the draft. So go check that out for sure.
Yeah, and for the Padres listeners, at CreatorsThomas24 for my personal account on Twitter, or look up Locked On Diamondbacks, Twitter, Instagram. Search up the podcast on all your streaming platforms and look up Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube as well. Please, talking about the state of the NL West and drafting the most disappointing players in the first half of the MLB season. We're Javier Reyes of Locked On Padres. Until next week, sir. Doses.